I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Mark Gillespie. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
It is an amazing night. A little cold, but it's November. I can handle that.
What part of the world are you in right now?
I am in what we around here refer to as the charming yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting?
Well, I've done a lot of things over my career as a journalist, but what seems to get me in the most trouble these days is the podcast I produce on whiskeys each week. It's called WhiskyCast, and I've been doing it for 12 years, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
This Sunday is the 12th anniversary of the very first show, November 12th, 2005.
Wow. Well, hey, we do love 12 here. We celebrate 12. So, I mean, congratulations. This podcast will be live a bit after the fact, but most definitely, which means you'll be 12 plus, right?
Right. We are a podcast old enough to have an age statement like a whiskey does.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Tell us about the WhiskyCast and what you do there. I found it most intriguing to listen to the podcast.
Well, I started it 12 years ago as a way to learn more about whiskeys myself. I was a professional journalist. That's what I've done my entire career. And I was being tasked with testing out podcasting technology for the company I was working for at the time. And I figure, okay, what can I do on my own to test this thing out called RSS feeds and podcasting and all this fun stuff and not put a company brand on the line? So I figured, okay, if I produce a few podcasts on whiskey and it doesn't go anywhere, no harm, no foul. I learn a little bit, have some fun, and we don't ruin the company's reputation. So it just sort of snowballed from there. And it's been my full-time job for the last 7 years or so.
Wow. How fascinating is that? Wow.
We have a family-run business. My wife handles the advertising, sales, marketing, and all of the stuff that I'm completely unqualified to do. I just write and talk a lot.
Yeah, which is fun, right?
It beats real work.
So who did you learn the skill of whiskey from, like the tasting side? Now let's explain to our audience, please, how serious this thing is, that it's not just drinking via gulping, right? Please explain the process. Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that at least a few of your listeners are familiar with wine tasting. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you get different aromas, different flavors out of virtually every whiskey. You can take two casks that were filled the same day, the same distillery, right after each other with the same mash bill, the same spirit, and a few years later they'll come out completely different. And it's a mystery that nobody really knows why. We know sort of how things are going to work, but nobody really knows how that cask is going to taste 12 years down the road when they fill it. So every whiskey has its own unique character, and there's a whiskey out there for everyone. And one of the things I preach is responsibility. You will never catch me driving after I've been drinking, period. I just don't do it. I drink at home.
You know, it's fascinating, even if we're applying the principles of what you just expressed there to humanity, right? Or even humans, right? Let's say humans. It's intriguing as well, right? Like we all come out of a womb, right? Most definitely. And it's really amazing how we mature. Have you seen that philosophical side of what you're doing and the application as well?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was comparing this, as a matter of fact, in a conversation the other day when I was doing an interview with a brand ambassador for one of the Scotch whiskey companies, in which we were talking about casks are a lot like children. You don't know how they're going to turn out 12, 15, 18, 21, 25 years down the line. You know what you put into that cask, and you know how you're taking care of it, how you're helping it mature. But you still don't know what it's going to be like when the final product comes out.
Yeah. And that being said, just experiencing the unknown and what that could look like, why will you continue this path, Mark?
Well, I haven't found the perfect whiskey yet. I've tasted over 2,000 of them.
Wow.
Over the last 10 years. And the highest score that I've ever given out is a 98 on a 100-point scale. I haven't found a whiskey yet that I would give a 99 to, and I'm not sure there's a whiskey I would give a 100-point score to, because for me to do that would mean that I would not be able, I would have to say that that's the one whiskey that I would be satisfied drinking for the rest of my life. And I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Yeah, well, that's intriguing. What was the 98 on?
I've given 7 of them, or out of 2,000 whiskeys, and let's see, the ones that come to mind immediately, a Mortlock 70-year-old single malt Scotch that was bottled by Gordon and MacPhail a few years ago, a 50-year-old Glenfiddich. The most recent one was earlier this year, a collection of 2 or 3 casks at Highland Park Distillery in Orkney that were filled in 1968 and bottled just a couple of years ago, that you can only get if you go to the distillery. You can taste it there if you, unless you know somebody, which I do. If you go there, you get to taste it if you pay the £1,000 for the special VIP tour.
Wow.
Which lets you work at the distillery for a day.
Wow. It's so I'm intrigued. Like, I'm really fascinated by what you've done. And so the tasting side is one, but it seems as though you've created a hack for memory as well, via taste buds.
Yeah, and I have to give my wife all the credit for this, because Christina is an excellent cook. And what she did was, because she uses a lot of spices, a lot of herbs, a lot of fresh vegetables and things in her cooking, I would tail her at the grocery store when I was getting started in whiskey nosing and tasting, and I would start picking up various herbs in the store and nosing them and smelling them and building those mental memories. Really, a tasting note is nothing more than a mental memory of an association you get when you smell something. For instance, there are certain whiskeys where I will smell coconut, and it immediately reminds me of the coconut cream pie that my grandmother used to make for Thanksgiving when I was a kid. It brings back that memory for me.
Yeah.
So it's all those memories that you sort of you pick up on. You get pencil shavings from when you sharpened a pencil in school. Yeah. And you'd empty out the eraser, and you get that little smell of cedar in some cases with a little bit of graphite.
Yeah.
So it's just mental memories that you get.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah, most
if
definitely.
I can do it, anybody can.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. So, all right, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Try to be curious about something new every day.
How does that make you feel?
It's a challenge, because I'm trying to learn more. Everything I've learned throughout my career, in terms of video editing, in terms of a lot of my photography skills, because I shoot all my own videos. I go out as a one-man band and produce videos in the field, produce all the podcasts in the field. Everything I learned is basically self-taught. I taught myself how to use Photoshop, for instance, and audio editing software like Audition, and for the most part, a lot of video editing software. So the whole idea is to approach it with a curiosity and figure out what I can learn new each day. Yeah. Just as in nosing a whiskey and approaching it with a fresh set of senses each day.
Yeah, that is where I know and I'm really attempting not to tap into it, because it will be a 1,200-minute conversation. That was exactly what I was thinking, that this hack, if you would, it's definitely applicable through life. So anything that you're touching, like, you understand the way to learn it by just connecting it to something else that is a memory that will definitely help you through. So Photoshop, it's like you're just breaking down principles, right? And that is fascinating. That is very fascinating. So just to someone listening, why they should even do what you're doing, really, again, by applying the principles of small models, if you would, to help yourself grow. Oh, did I do that correctly? Oh, let me start. Yeah, you're good? All right.
Yeah, I think because we all have unique skills. We all have unique talents. You have talents that I don't have. The guy who's listening right now has talents that neither one of us have. We all have a unique talent. And the key is to be open to figuring out what that talent is. For me, right now it's nosing whiskey and being able to talk about it and being able to ask questions of the people who make the stuff and find out the stories that really make whiskey unique. You have this great talent for pulling unique answers out of people when you do your interviews. Somebody else has a unique talent as well, and it's up to them to find out what that talent is and make the most of it.
I love it. Well, Mark, what is the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, of course. It's at WhiskyCast, WhiskyCast.com. And, of course, I'm on all the usual social media platforms at WhiskyCast as well. And I always respond to emails. I always answer questions about whiskey. If somebody has a question and they pose it on social media or message me, I will answer it. Or if I don't know the answer, I will find the answer.
Love it. Well, Mark, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
I love it.
Mark, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Wow. Earliest one that I can flesh out was in probably 1968 when I was in first grade in the fall of 1968, conning our teacher into letting me bring a TV set in to watch one of the Apollo launches in the classroom. Because I was a space geek as a kid, and we brought this big, humongous black and white TV set in, and a lot of listeners probably won't recognize what TV sets from the 1960s looked like, but they were these big monstrosities with a big black and white screen that took minutes to warm up, and when you turned it off, you get this little dot that would flash in the middle while the phosphors finally burned out on the thing. But we got to watch one of the space launches in the classroom because I conned the teacher into saying yes when I said, "Can we please watch the space launch because it's happening during school?"
That's intriguing. Why do you think this memory is so clear?
It's just one of the memories that I have because from first grade, because that was one of those years that was really unique because, it started with me being pulled out at 6 years old to go up to the fourth grade because for some reason I was fairly advanced in reading and I was at a little small country school, and they ran me up to the fourth graders to do things with them because I was a little farther advanced than my classmates, which made me really popular in both the first and the fourth grade. And then a few months after that, during the middle of the school year, my mother suddenly passed away. And at the end of the year, we wound up during that summer, my father remarried rather quickly, and we wound up leaving that school district. But just because of all of that stuff during that late 1968, early 1969 time period, I just, because of all that things and some fairly traumatic stuff and fairly unusual stuff, that's why I remember it.
Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
You know, I got to thinking on this just because there was a power outage and then we connected here again. So we left off right here. And I thought about it a few times during the day. And I thought it was really intriguing that you've actually found a way to hack yourself through life, which I could be wrong, but it seems as though you always love the challenge of the challenge. And you found a way to strengthen yourself, if you would, to go forward in that. So, like, for example, the whiskey tasting and smelling, it's like the most challenging thing to humanity, I think, to be able to pick up what something is by a taste and a smell. But you didn't just make it a hobby. You impacting so many others by creating, again, another following. Just like that time in that classroom when you wanted to see the Apollo, right?
Yeah.
And you created the hack that would create it again. And in so doing, created a following. So I just thought it was really amazing how those things connect. And I'm guessing it has connected that way a few times in your life.
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that, but you're right. I was always accused of trying to figure out if I wanted to do something, I figured out a way to do it by my parents growing up and by my family. And if I wanted to figure out a way to do something, I pretty much figured out how to pull it off. And while that hasn't always worked in my life, it generally works with a lot of things. I think if we come up with an idea and we're willing to work hard and come up with a creative way to make it happen, we make it happen.
Yeah, well, that's intriguing. It's like the marksman. I guess Mark Gillespie is good, right?
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, Mark, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh, let's see. That would be 1974. and it would have been Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Who Loves You. And don't ask me to sing it.
All right, I definitely will not.
That is one of my weak spots that I've never tried to resolve, is that I cannot sing to save my soul.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm in the same boat. Others have said, no, I'm sure you could sing really well. I said, no, I do play the guitar a bit. I would definitely let you off on the guitar and not my voice. It's definitely the love to do that. Not give you my voice.
Yeah, my kids have said, Dad, just don't even try to sing. When the song comes on in the car that everybody likes, it's people are singing and they say, Dad, we'll sing, you listen. Okay.
Well, Mark, we have arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Mark?
Go for it.
Mark, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I have people in mind. It depends on whether they're of a mood to be ready for it when the time comes.
Are you married?
Yes, 31 years.
Wow. Give us a secret.
Saying yes, dear, a lot. She puts up with so much from me.
Wow, 31 years. Congratulations. What's her name?
Christina.
There we go.
And as I said earlier, she runs the business side of things here.
Yeah, congratulations.
So we work together, and I say yes, ma'am, a lot, and I've learned to trust her judgment because it's usually pretty good.
How many children do you have?
3 adult daughters. My youngest is 22, my oldest is 30, and my middle one will turn 27 here in a few weeks.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
I believe in something. I used to be very religious. Now I'm not 100% sure. I don't. As for whether there's, from the Oh God movies, the George Burns character sitting on a throne up in heaven somewhere, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do believe there is something that holds us all together, some sort of divine spirit.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I have a few close friends.
What about TV? Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, other than news.
Okay, so it's
maybe the occasional ball game or a hockey game or something like that. But I don't sit down and watch a lot of TV. I really don't have time, even though I've got a TV in my office at home.
And what about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
More than 8, and I'll leave it at that.
All right.
It's a significant part of my life.
Yeah. Well, Mark, after 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I came up with this workbook. It's called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. It's a reflective self-discovery workbook, where my intention is you answer questions similar to these and you hopefully uncover your own unique real statement, which is also known as your mission. I'd like to know, Mark, if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Mark Gillespie, what would you say that is?
Wow. I would have to say it's something along the lines of always seeking the truth and going forward with persistence and passion.
Love it. Mark, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I'm about to sit down and have a dram of the oldest Scotch whiskey ever bottled.
Wow.
75-year-old Scotch that was distilled in 1939 at Mortlach Distillery. And I mentioned earlier that we're celebrating our anniversary of the show this weekend as we're recording this.
Yes.
And I'm also at another milestone on our website, and then I'm about to post the 2000th tasting note for a single whiskey.
Wow.
And this is going to do both of those, this 75-year-old Mortlach single malt. So I'm looking at the glass right now and raising it as I see the Skype screen to you, Angel.
Well, I virtually raise my virtual glass, my friend, and say cheers to you. And congratulations on everything that you've accomplished.
And the same to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Mark Gillespie, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.